Located in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley, Fishersville, Virginia will be the second stop in quest for the 1989 national champion Red Men All-American Pulling Series in a beautiful natural amphitheater. The crowd is already starting to rise. They're bringing their blankets. They're going to sit on a hillside. They're going to see the best superstars in professional pulling.
Power Tracks presents the most powerful sport on earth, the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series.
Hello, everyone. We are at the beautiful Augusta Expoland, Fishersville, Virginia, for the modified four-wheel drive competition. And Army, what a beautiful setting for the most powerful sport on earth.
Well, Richard, Mother Nature has given us a natural amphitheater for some thunder in the mountain. The thunder is going to come to the TNT National Points Chase, the modified four-wheel drive, upwards of 700 cubic inches to be competitive in this particular class, Richard.
And we're going to be working with a 300-foot-long track here. And Army, if you could explain how they measure the distances.
Well, at the end of the track, there's an electronic laser measuring beam. You saw it a moment ago on a tripod. At the front of the sled, what we're looking at right now is a prism. When the vehicle stops its pull, the front of the sled, where the prism is located, that laser beam is shot into the prism. It bounces by, gives you two figures. They measure to the nearest 1/100th of a foot.
Well, let's go trackside now, where Army has our defending national champion. Army?
Well, thank you, Richard. Standing with me right now, the man on a bubble, your defending national champion, Howard Lewis, the High Roller Chevrolet. Can you make it 2 years in a row, Howard?
Well, Army, we're surely going to try to make it 2 years in a row. I realize nobody has ever done this, but we've talked with Lee Edwards, the man that builds my motors, and he's super powerful in that sport, and we've had a lot of discussion on it, and I believe we can do it.
The Fishersville track you're going to be pulling on right now is the second stop in the chase for the national championship. It is known as a power track. For the viewers at home, what exactly is a power track?
Army, a power track is when the dirt is the consistency, it's got clay in it, and you wind up where you take this 1,000 and 1,200 horsepower, and it actually drags the motor down. You can get it onto the ground, and that's what's happening.
So basically, the track almost gets sticky and hold all this horsepower that you and Lee Edwards can make to win these championships. Another question a lot of people ask us about, the hole shot. A lot of people know what a hole shot is in the sport of drag racing. It's the person that leaves the line the quickest, but there's also a hole shot in a pulling sport. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, that's right. A hole shot in this sport is where you line that sled up somewhere in that 35-foot range, the width of the track. Now, to us, a hole shot means just that. You find the best spot within that 35-foot range, and you've got to have the best movement out of that hole in the first 75 to 100 feet.
There you see the decision maker. That is the sled being weighed down right now. That is the sled that has to go 300 feet for a full pull. We're going to be right back with our test puller, Jerry Weaver, to start all the action in Fishersville, Virginia on ESPN.
Power Tracks and the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series is brought to you by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevy trucks.
It's the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series from Fishersville, Virginia. I'm Richard Leake, along with Army Armstrong, and literally thousands of motorsports fans having a great afternoon.
Yeah, everybody comes to Fishersville to see some good pullers, have some good fun. It's kind of a happening in this part of the country, and we're sure glad to be here.
You know, it kind of reminds me of a mini Bowling Green, Ohio event.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people do compare it to that, Richard. But as far as the pulling goes, it doesn't get any tougher than this right here.
Well, let's get to the pulling. Test pulling style. Jerry Weaver will be our test puller this afternoon. Remember, this is known as a power track. He calls his truck Kendall. That, of course, after his sponsor, Kendall Motor Oil. And Jerry Weaver has got to go 300 feet for a full pull.
Well, the fine people at Kendall Motor Oil, very involved in the sport of pulling, have been for many years. We're glad to have them involved with us with the sponsorship of Jerry. Now, he comes out working right down the middle of the track and not generating a whole lot of ground speed, Richard. I think he might want to turn that down. Only a 280.93 is the word we get.
Well, it's completely up to Jerry Weaver whether or not he wants to keep that distance or come back later in the field? We'll try to get that answer for you in a few minutes as we get ready next for Manuel Moreno, the Yellow Rose of Texas. That gives you an idea of where he's from, the Lone Star State.
Tremendous amount of pride in all these pullers. This young man involved in construction. He has a very successful construction business and keeps the truck on tour. He flies to and from the events. He's a past TNT national champion. Runs a 700-plus cubic inch engine, Richard. Definitely can lay the horsepower down to you. He would not be in Virginia all the way from Texas if he didn't think he could take a win. Look at that ground speed. Richard really starting to muscle it on the other end. Oh, we got a problem. Something let go on that truck right at the end, Richard.
It sure did, Army. After a distance of 271.55, Manuel Moreno with a definite problem.
Manuel, an awfully good run, but right at the end, something let go in the truck. What was it?
I broke the left-hand axle on the rear.
Can you feel that as a driver in a truck? I know you can feel it break. Can you feel it going away?
Yes. Right at the end, when it got under a load, it broke right away.
Tough luck for Manuel Moreno. And Army, here's a surprise for you. Jerry Weaver has decided to keep his pulling distance as the test puller.
You know, that's interesting because this track has a history of getting better the later in the field you go. The sun's starting to settle. The moisture should stay in the track. That kind of surprises me, Richard.
Here comes James Hamilton from Bardstown, Kentucky. He is gone bananas.
Hamilton, a strong charger out of the Bluegrass Straight, coming right down the middle, trying to go the other side of a 280. Not going to do it. 6 feet shy at 274.
274.29 for James Hamilton and the Gone Bananas truck. And we get ready next for a dandy. Have you driven a Ford lately, says Roger Crawford, the driver of the Bandit from Granville, Ohio. It's a 1988 Ford with a 670 cubic inch Hemi engine. He is sponsored by TRW and Kindle Oil, and he is a good one, Army.
Yeah, he's definitely a good truck to have your name on. He's a strong charger, the Bandit, known for a lot of top-end speed. Now, he gets a good leap on the starting line. Richard, hand track. He's got some good mile an hour going for him. I think we're going to have a new leader. 280's the lead distance. Crawford knocked it up to around 290.
290.72. Roger Crawford is now our new leader.
Well, you came out just storming on the other end of the track. You go into the lead on a 300-foot track. Nobody's made a full pull, but what you made there was an awfully strong run. Is that going to be good enough to win?
Well, I think the track will keep getting better, but you have to get right on it. Down there, I felt I had a good run. We'll just have to wait and see. It'll take a good run to get by me, but I feel the track's going to get better. There's still a lot of good trucks behind me.
On the track right now is Robert Houlihan. He is out of Virginia, and he's got a pretty good run going.
Yeah, this is home turf for Robert. He's looking awfully good. Doesn't travel the national circuit with us, but made a good showing for himself. Only 3 feet down. Should bump him up into that number 2 spot, Richard.
287.42 for Robert Houlihan. So we have got some more great drivers coming up. DeForest, Coleman, and Lewis are on their way on ESPN. TNT All-American Pulling Series from Fishersville, Virginia. Richard Leake and Army Armstrong getting ready for another great Ford driver, Russell DeForest out of West Palm Beach, Florida. It's called the Outlaw. He runs a 641 cubic inch engine, and Army, everyone is chasing Roger Crawford right now.
Crawford sits on top of this awesome field with the TRW Ford. Let's see what this Ford can do. Runs an auto brokerage shop down in West Palm Beach, Florida. Goes by the name of the Outlaw. He's not going to do it at all. I don't know. He really came up the last couple of feet, Richard. He actually seemed to pick up a little bit on the ground speed, but the weight was too much for him.
Missed it by some 6 feet for moving into the lead at a distance of 284.47. And that brings out to the line next Tommy Holman, the driver of the Saturday Night Driller. He's been off the circuit for a while, and he decided to come back for this giant event here in Fishersville, Virginia at the Augusta Expoland. And Arnie, I know you spent the afternoon with Tommy Holman talking about his decision to come back.
Kind of an interesting story here with Tommy Holman, and that being the fact he was in the sport, got out of the sport, and then regrouped and came back in the sport. Why do we have you back here now, Tommy?
Well, I'm a little older, got a little more money.
You used to run, but not on a national level. How has the sport changed since you got out of it originally, and now you're back in it?
Well, in 1979 and 80, we only had one Grand National pull, which was at Columbus, Ohio that year. And the four-wheel drive class was down. They were changing rules on us, and we just, there wasn't enough pulls, so we decided to sell out.
Okay, now the Red Man's involved in the sport. We've handpicked 10 big events we're going to be running this year. They put some big bucks out there. So you decided to get back in it and spend the big bucks that it takes to run one of these trucks now. That's correct?
Right. We saved our money up and said if we're getting back in it, we want to get in there to win. So we bought the equipment that it takes, we feel, to build a winning truck.
What are you going to do to stay up in this #1 position or stay up in the top of the field through this whole 10-race series?
Pray for good numbers. You know, where we draw at, that's going to have something to do with it.
That's kind of interesting because in this sport, you're really at the mercy of a little pill when you go through registration to draw to see at what order you pull in. The pill is so very important to this sport.
Right, and along with the horsepower. You got to have horsepower and a little bit of luck.
So let's see what kind of luck and horsepower Tommy Holman has in that Dodge. He's out of Wayne, Ohio.
Well, Richard, we said there's 10 hand-picked cities. He won the first stop. That was Nashville, Tennessee. Let's see what's going to happen now. He's rolling down the track as a national points leader. He's got a good run going. Finally going the other side of 290. Look at here.
298.82, almost a full pull. Not quite, but good enough to take over the lead for Tommy Holman. Obviously, he had that Dodge running good on this track.
Well, the truck's running real good. It's looking real good. Numbers seem to be right, and we're doing a good job.
Can you hang on and then take a win here? There's a whole lot of bad boys sitting back here. They all watched your run, and they all ran back to their trucks to make some kind of change.
It's a little bit early to tell. I sure hope so. There's been some real good equipment out there already. There's a fellow back there in the back out of Nashville, Tennessee we're a little worried about.
He's talking about Donnie Sanders in the Tennessee, and we'll see him in a little while, Army.
You know why he's talking about Donnie? Because they both run the Jerry Janke engines.
Makes sense. So they know what each of them have as we get ready for a true champion. Howard Lewis, your defending national champion, the High Roller Chevrolet, has got to go beyond a 298 to take the lead.
We talk about Jerry Janke and his horsepower. This is the Lee Edwards horsepower truck. Goes by the name of the High Roller, defending national champion Chevrolet. Lewis not able to get the ground speed that he needs, Richard. That 298 looks safe right now.
A great distance, so of 289.18, that's going to put him up into the top 3, but it's not going to put him into the lead.
Howard, not the run you were looking for, but I made an observation out there. That is, everybody's coming out of basically the same area of the track, the right side. Why is that?
Well, I came out the right side because I felt like the left was just a little too wet, and if it's real wet, it'll do worse than what we just did, to tell you the truth. I'd like to have had a better run out of it. Maybe the tire pressure was off just a little bit.
We were talking about the hole shot this afternoon in our interview, and you talked about how important that was. Were you satisfied with the lead that you got on the starting line?
Well, I think that I probably should have got after it just a little bit. By getting after it, just to get on the throttle just a little bit quicker than what I did. And maybe wouldn't have bounced quite as much as it did and broke the wheels loose a little sooner.
We are in Fishersville, Virginia. What a beautiful setting for this Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series. And we've still got some great action to come. It's straight ahead after this commercial break on ESPN. Beautiful Fishersville, Virginia. It's the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series. We have the modified four-wheel drive competition going on. Our leader right now, Tommy Holman in a Dodge at a distance of 298.82 as we make way for Mike Johnson from Perry, Oklahoma. It's called the Oklahoma Showdown. And Army, when you think of Oklahoma, you think of beautiful farms and you think of football, but you don't think of pulling.
No, I tell you, the Johnson brothers, Mike and Scott, have teamed up, sponsorship by the Ditch Witch people, to be a true competitor, chase these national championship points. They drew late in the field, and they're going to the right side of the track, Richard. The first one to do that. They're trying to see if there's anybody over on the right. It's looking good. No, it goes away in a hurry. Oh, that sled is getting tough on the other side of the 250, Richard. It's amazing.
He actually went 283.03. Mike Johnson from Perry, Oklahoma. So kind of a disappointing distance for him. And Army, is the track getting better?
Yeah, the moisture's staying in the track. The problem is the drivers don't know where to set the sled.
So do you anticipate maybe a full pull before we're through today?
Yeah, all the drivers say somebody's going to nail it out the other end. The question is, who's it going to be and where are they going to come from? That's the big question.
Well, speaking of the track, that happens to be the subject matter of our question of the week, which comes from Travis Millhauser of Georgetown, Texas. He wants to know how deep the track is.
Well, Travis, the track like we're running on here at Fishersville, Virginia, is kind of made by Mother Nature. We just take and till it up to a depth of about 18 inches and repack it to make it hard. Then we go indoors. Now, the indoor tracks, they consist of about 300 yards of clay. And what you do, you pack that to a depth of about 18 to 24 inches. The main thing is to pack it real tight and real hard so that the spinning tires don't actually dig through the clay into the concrete or asphalt surface.
Travis, we appreciate your question. And if anyone out there has a question of the week about the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series, mail it to TNT Motorsports, 5515 Poplar Park Boulevard, Louisville, Kentucky, 40228. And if we use one of your questions on a future TV broadcast, we'll send you free a TNT Motorsports hat. Get ready next for Bob Smith, the Three Bears driver, the Chevrolet out of Virginia. He's rolling, Army.
Smith, good leave on that starting line. The Three Bears, he shares the driving course with his truck with his son. Tonight, Dad's doing the driving. He's going to be shy. 298 to lead distance. Smith's only going to net a 287.
287.58. That'll put him into the top 8 right now, but it will not bring him a win as we get ready next for a 5-time national champion. It is Jim Lyons, the Stitches tin machine out of Louisville, Kentucky. And if anyone can take it the length of this track, that guy right there can do it.
Yeah, well, Jim Lyons, his 5 national championships are in this sport. He also has national championships and world record in drag racing as well as circle track racing. So he's very involved in motorsports. I want you to notice the engine. It runs a unique injector setup. You notice the tubes coming out the top. Nobody else runs that setup. He's real big on research and development. He's trying to find something that nobody else has. Let's see if he's found it and if it works. Horsepower seems to be there, Richard, but the ground speed is not.
Jim Lyons is going to have the sled bog him down after a distance of only 263.57. So that new setup on the Jim Lyons machine did not work for him today.
Jim, new setup all the way through. Didn't look like the first 60 feet paid off for you.
Well, I think on that full air Army, I just run too slow a gear. You know, the track fooled me, so, you know, you just mess up and get it right. And
another time, another day.
Sure will. Thank you very much.
Well, let's get ready for another top Ford driver. This is Tony Osteen, the Georgia Rebel. He is out of West Green, Georgia. It's a Ford F-250. He runs a powerful 675 cubic inch Ford engine, Army.
Yeah, but Richard, it's kind of ironic that Jim Lyons just pulled and Osteen follows him, because you talk about guys that experiment. I want you to listen to this truck. Now, what you're hearing is something that sounds like an Indianapolis car. A lot of RPM. They do a lot of experiment with the crankshaft in this truck. Osteen's found something, and he's trying to develop it, Richard.
Tony Osteen goes 292.31.
Tony, the leader told us a moment ago in the interview in confidentiality, if anybody goes to the left side, they're going to get me. You went to that left side. Beautiful run going, but something happened with the left side of the engine. What was it?
Well, we burnt it last night. We ran too lean and burnt up a couple of pistons, and we got 2 pistons that's been burnt. And we didn't have no oil range to go back in. You noticed it was smoking, so we made the best run we could make. We just come up a little short.
What about that left side? If somebody else were to go into that lane now, can it hold the horsepower? Can they win out of the left side on the track?
Yes, you can win over there.
Now let's see if anyone else goes to the left side. It doesn't look like Willie Olms is going to do it. He is the driver of the Enforcer machine, Army.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. In this sport, I would have to say Tony Osteen can read a track better than anybody, and it surprises me that Willie is going to bounce over to the other side after watching Osteen.
But our leader, who is Tommy Holman, he pulled on the right side of the track.
Yeah, but the track has a personality. It gets better and goes away. The sun is down now. The track's holding a lot of moisture, and Holmes showing it'll hold some horsepower right down the middle. The ground speed looks good. Weight starting to come up on him. The weight tops out. Holmes pulls down.
286.13 for Willie Olms. He's out of Winchester, Virginia, driving the Enforcer. He is not going to win it, as our lead distance is still held by Tommy Holman. And we'll be back with more great action in just a moment on ESPN.
Our Tracks and the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series is brought to you by TNT Motorsports, the nation's leader in pulling and monster truck racing.
Welcome back to the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series from Fishersville, Virginia. And Army, we are down to our final 3 pullers. They have got to go beyond 298 feet to get a win today.
Well, Richard, I believe somebody can do it. And this young man coming out of Florida definitely can be a player. Sponsored by the Sparkle Car Care products, Glenn Davis knows how to read a track. He's used to pulling in that Florida sand. He's up here in some good biting Virginia clay. Let's see what he can do with this Chevrolet.
And, of course, the Sparkle machine is a Chevrolet, the heartbeat of America. Glenn Davis is going to try to get his first win of 1989, but it's going to be tough to do it.
Look at the location of the sled, Richard. They're bouncing all over the track trying to find out. OC said the left side's the place to do it. Let's see what's going to happen. Davis is working the left side. Boy, tremendous amount of ground speed, but when his sled tops out, it really nails him. Look at that, 270.60 is the word we get.
Missed it by some 28 feet, so Glenn Davis, kind of a disappointing run here in front of all the great Virginia fans. So we are down to our final two pullers, Donnie Sanders, Greg Cook. They'll be out in just a moment. You know, TNT Motorsports is one of the nation's leaders in safety innovations, and Army took a look at one of the safety features on these powerful 4x4s earlier this afternoon here in Fishersville, Virginia.
Some of the drive shaft components that more than likely have a chance to come apart under the stress of a high-performance engine are like the universal joint. Now, the rules say you've got to surround that universal joint 360 degrees with a 6-inch piece of metal. Each drive shaft is surrounded with 3 separate loops, again 360 degrees, to keep it in a safe manner. On this particular vehicle, you got 2 drive shafts. You're going to have 6 safety loops. The drivetrain itself, as the power comes out of the engine and goes into the transfer case, must be completely encased in a scatter shield type surrounding. And speaking of scatter shields, one of the most volatile parts of an engine is the clutch assembly area, and we also require these vehicles to run a SEMA-approved scatter shield.
You know, that's a fascinating feature, Army, only because a lot of people don't realize how technical this sport truly is.
Yeah, before anybody can go on a track and compete for the TNT points, they must go through a safety inspection and meet all the standards.
Well, here comes my favorite driver of all, and I'll tell you why. He is from my hometown of Nashville, Tennessee. It is Donnie Sanders, and it is the Tennessean, and he is a heck of a driver.
Well, let's get out of Tennessee has teamed up with the Texan. We talked about the double T concept, Tennessee and Texas. The horsepower, it comes out of the Lone Star State in the form of a Jerry Janke engine. Everybody in this class is saying if anybody can put it out of here, it's going to be this kid. And look at this. This is why. Look at the ground speed. First 100-foot mark. He would look like a fast-moving freight. Taking a richer look. It looks like we're going to have a first full pull. What a run.
We have got our first full pull of the night, as you said, Army, and it comes in the way of Donnie Sanders, the Tennessean, out of Nashville. He is now moved into the lead with 1 to go.
All right, Donnie, you just went into the #1 spot, and I'm not going to say I was surprised because the man you bumped out of that #1 spot told me during his interview, he said, there's one truck that can get me tonight, and he's from Tennessee. That's got to be you.
Well, I tell you, he walked down there and he told me, he said, well, he said, you're the only one I'm worried about. And I said, well, he said, good luck. And I said, thanks a lot. And I went out there and a little nervous, I've been last like this. It just made me a nervous wreck. Seemed like to be last. But when I come out, I couldn't get it wide open. My new foot throttle I put in it, and I've had a hand throttle. And it just, I've had trouble getting it wide open.
Let me ask you a question. You draw the absolute worst position in this class, being the bottom number, and you go back to the middle. Why'd you do that?
Well, Army, I walked over and I told Osteen, I said, if nobody runs the left side, I'm going to. Osteen laughed and said, well, I'm gonna run it, I believe. He said, that might be the answer. So when he did, and I seen the next truck didn't go nowhere, it backed up a few feet, I just moved back to the center, tried to catch where they'd been rolling it, and going back and everything, and it just seemed to work out for me.
Well, Donnie Sanders has to stand on the sideline, bite his fingernails one last time as Greg Cook will be our final puller. Greg is out of Mount Airy, North Carolina. He's a 2-time national champion in the Wild Blue Chevrolet.
Richard, people don't realize how many of the drivers have crew members that do nothing but watch the track and see how it changes, and that's exactly what Sanders did. He picked his groove. Now let's see what Cook can do. This is the last man that can get the Tennessean. Wild Blue out of North Carolina. Richard, your volunteer state's going to take the win tonight in Fishersville, Virginia.
As Yogi Bear would say, yabba dabba doo, 265.69 for Greg Cook. That means the win this evening is going to go to Donnie Sanders in the heartbeat of America Chevrolet out of Nashville, Tennessee. Here's the final top 5. Howard Lewis takes 5th position. In 4th place, the Ford of Roger Crawford. That's the Bandit Ford. 3rd goes to the Georgia Rebel, Tony Osteen. Second place goes to Tommy Holman, the Saturday Night Driller. And your winner, congratulations, Donnie Sanders in the Tennessean. And one last time, guys, let's take a look at the winning pool.
You know, Richard, it's amazing. He said he couldn't get the throttle wide open on the starting line. It's amazing the ground speed that he generated if he was having problems. I was not aware of it at all. It looked like a picture-perfect run down the left side of the track.
Well, our many thanks to the great fans of Fishersville, Virginia. For Army Armstrong, I'm Richard Leake. We'll see you again on the tracks across America.